Good morning. Good morning, and thank you for coming. What a wonderful day. I hope I don't get killed in a stampede to buy some shorts this morning when I go out. But there are a few things that we need to go through this morning. Quite a few things, actually, on the news roundup. Yvonne, lucky for Yvonne, she's away in New York. Now, I understand, she told me that she was going over there to sing in the choir, but sources close to the government tell me she's going to sort Donald Trump out while she's over there. So the first thing to mention is we've got the AGM coming up on May the 5th. So we need, obviously, good attendance for that, for the nominations for the committee going forward. So if you wouldn't mind coming along to that event and casting your vote, that would be great. What we've got actually at the event is, after the event, is we've got a speaker from the Perth Fire Service who's coming along to talk about safety in the home. So that will be the speaker on that particular day. So I hope that that's an interesting talk. A couple of other things that have come up. In committee, we talked about whether the 521 members have enough information regarding the amount of groups that exist within U3A. So, as a feature of the newsletter going forward, Yvonne is going to include spotlight in every newsletter some of the activities that we actually get involved in. So in this particular newsletter, she's looking at activities like backgammon, bridge, canasta, the two lunch groups that we've got, the mahjong group, also the Scrabble group, the carpet bowls, which takes place down at North Inch, and obviously we've got the travel groups that also exist if you're interested. And the way to find out the group leaders of these is simply to go into the website, and if you look under the group section, you'll find out who the group leader is, and that will enable you to make contact with them to see if you actually are interested in joining any of those groups. The other group that Anne Trant is creating is to do with the environment. And I will just read out the note that Anne has given me, so as you're aware of what the group exists. So it's a new group being formed about environment matters, covering both climate and ecological issues. Each meeting will focus on a different matter, with reading, hearing, or viewing a variety of resources as homework before the meeting. During the meeting, we will discuss the resources. We may also have a regular feature on environment news. The emphasis will be, hopefully, positive. As the group learns, we will consider what individuals might do to help. And as Patrick Geddes once said, think global but act local. The group will meet at Unit 7, most likely on a Monday morning in week 3, and will start in September. If you're interested, simply go onto the Perth U3A website, look at non-committee roles, and you'll find the link to Anne. And I'm sure she'll be delighted if you would like to join that particular group. Incidentally, why I'm talking about Anne, Peter, Anne's husband, at some point will be taking photographs today, primarily for Trevor for his talk. But if any of you want to remain invisible and don't want to be on the photograph, just put your hand up. On Unit 7 itself, we've now only got one free slot available. So if we actually encounter more groups, what we'll have to do is we're looking at investigating taking another unit next door, Unit 6, to accommodate any new groups that might come up. Two more things. Scone Palace have now opened up for tours, and Wilma Coleman has offered to organise one for U3A members. So again, if you're interested, same as the website for Trant, go and look for non-committee members, and you'll see Wilma's contact details on there if you're interested in going on one of a Scone tour that she's planning. And finally, Ian Cameron, who's a member of Perth U3A, has asked me to mention the fact that Perth Civic Trust are hosting a talk on the development of railways in Perth on May the 1st at the AK Bell Library. The speaker is Neil Alder, and you can find more about the talk on perthcivictrust.org UK under events. So, thank you for listening to that. I've got an idea that Trevor's going to play some instruments this morning, so I'm now going to hand over to him, and over to you, Trevor, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Trevor. I play the horn. These are horns. I think I've been very lucky. Some 60 years ago, when I went up to secondary school, I got the chance to learn to play the horn, and I took it. I've been playing it ever since. So I've had 60 years of playing the horn, being around horns, being around horn players. I've been lots of places, done lots of things I'd never have done had I not played the horn. So it's been wonderful. If you know any young people who are thinking of taking up an orchestral instrument, particularly if it's the horn, please encourage them. They'll have a great time. I must confess to feeling a bit nervous standing here before you. I didn't go to music college. I studied engineering at university. So I've got no formal music education. So I hope I'm going to get things right this morning. If I don't, then I'm sorry, it's all my fault. The horn, it's a very old instrument. Some people say it's man's, and when I say man's, I mean men or women. Man's oldest instrument, and it's got a history that goes back thousands of years. So I've got a variety of horns here, and I've set them out in sort of date order. So these are oldest horns, going up to the most recent horns. I'm going to go through them, talk a bit about each one, and hopefully blow a few notes on them. I'm going to talk a wee bit about playing the horn as we go. I'm going to talk a wee bit about what I've done as a horn player, but that's not the main focus. The main focus is on the instrument. So, making a start. I've got nothing new to say this morning. The horns have been studied, and there've been lots of learned papers written about them, lots of lectures about them. We know the horn history very well. If you're really interested, I've got 3 books here. The Horn, the French Horn, the Horn. It's about 700 pages there. If anyone wants to borrow them, I'd be very pleased to let you have them. I haven't got time to go into 700 pages worth of information this morning. So I need to be quite brief. So with my clicker. Here we go. So the story is we're going to go from that horn on the left there, which is an animal horn, which is this chappy. And we're going to go to a modern horn, which is this chappy. Initially, looking at those two items, they're not related. How on earth do you start with that and end up with that? It's not a logical process that we've been through. So what I've tried to do is to break it down into 6 easy steps. These are the 6 steps I think we've gone through to go from this to that. So starting off, we had animal horns. Then we got a bit cleverer and we made metal horns. Then moving on, we went to hooped horns, hand horns, valved horns, and modern horns. Seems quite easy and straightforward when you put it in 6 little boxes like that. It's taken us thousands of years. Right, we'll make a start. Animal horns. Here we go. It must have been wonderful when man discovered he could do that. Probably terrifying. What a sound. This is a young animal, and it's that animal on the left there, an African kudu. So that's what this one sounds like. But as you can see from the pictures, those kudu horns actually get quite big. Woo. And if you see what this one sounds like. Sounds quite different. If there's one fact you go away from today, it's the fact that if you change the length of the instrument, the length of the tube, everything changes. So this and this sound quite different simply because one's short and one's long. Tube length is crucial. So I'm going to hope you wish me well with this one. Try and play this one. You might have noticed that with these two, I cheated a bit. I used a modern mouthpiece. Sneaky. This one hasn't got a mouthpiece, and it's got a very, very small hole. See if we can make it speak. No guarantees. It's a great horn, great sound. Right, moving on from animal horns. We've gone through the Bronze Age, we've gone through the Iron Age, we've learned how to find metals, work metals. We're now pretty good at making metals, metal objects. And at some point, made something like that. Looks like a horn, but in fact it's metal. Hasn't got a mouthpiece, it's got this funny wee opening there. I'm not terribly good at playing this one. Similar sound to the horn, but it's made from metal, so that's a big change. If we go up to some 2,000 time of Christ, time of the Roman Empire, time of the Roman army. The Roman army were quite good in promoting music, if that's the way to put it. They had some fine brass instruments, metal instruments. I'm not sure if they were brass, but metal instruments. And maybe they had those people playing those at the front of the column of soldiers. It would have given the soldiers a boost and probably terrified the locals. The one I'm particularly interested in, let's try this point out. It's this one. It's the one on the right there. It's called the cornu. And I think that's the direct ancestor of the horn. It shares some characteristics of the horn. It's long, and it's got a thin tube. It's about 9 feet long. It's a curved shape, so we're starting to move towards a circular shape. But it's not actually a circle yet, but we're getting there. And it's got a small bell. So that's the bell. Some horn players call it the flare if they want to be posh, but the bell, the flare, same thing. It's got a small one, so there we go. But I think that answers to the horn. I'd love to have one to play for you today. Sorry, I didn't manage to get one. But I've got a video, so this is what a cornu sounds like. Wonderful. I think I'll have to put one on my birthday list. Moving on, we're now in the 1600s. The horn, it's changed from being a military instrument to being a hunting instrument. This is a time when particularly the French had large chateaus and they had hunting forests to go with them. And they liked to go hunting on horseback, chasing deer. And they wanted an instrument that they could take into the forest on the horseback, and they could play it and send signals to each other and communicate. Perhaps the first mobile phone, really. Doesn't tell you much, but yeah, you send a signal. Basically, two different instruments. The horn I've got there, I think it's a very elegant looking instrument. I'm not quite sure what it is. I think it's probably a corde de chasse, which is a horn of the chase. But initially, they didn't know how to make large bells, and they made small bells. So we had the trompe de chasse, the trumpet of the chase. And these horns were designed so they go over the shoulder. And you can go on your horse. And then, when the time comes, you take it off. So this is one I made myself, you might have guessed. Maybe horn players were odd folk, I don't know. We've got a couple sitting here, so I won't say too much. But there's a tradition in horn players of making hosepipe horns. And that's what that is. And I've made it in the shape of a hooped horn. So that was maybe a taste of what a hooped horn sounds like. These horns are still played in France, and they're very fond of playing them in France. There's a strong tradition of playing them in France. So we've got some French horn players playing these horns. Fasten your seatbelts, here we go. You've maybe got to be a horn player to like that sound, but I think it's wonderful. St. Hubert is the patron saint of hunters, and that's probably in commemoration of St. Hubert. Right, moving on. Fairly big jump forward now. Early 1700s to about 1830. We move on and we've got this wonderful horn here. Ooh. Tim owns this horn. Tim's sitting in the front row there. Thank you for the loan, Tim. I'm taking very good care of it, I hope. So this is what we call a hand horn. And really, the horn's gone through a radical redesign from this to this. So now they've made the hoop smaller. It's more manageable, easier to play. And really the big thing they've done is to take the body and they've made it into two parts. So this we call the corpus, the body, and this we call the crook. And the crook slots in there, some mortise and tenon joint, I'm told. So you can put a small crook in, or you can have a big crook, and you can put a big crook in. Maybe if you've ever been to hear the Scottish Chamber Orchestra play, you might have looked at the horn players, and they've got a stand, and they've got these funny hoop things on the bottom of them. They're the crooks. As you go through the music, you probably get a little message telling you to change the key of the horn, and that, for the horn player, means putting a different crook in. So this is a crook, and it puts the horn into F. If I just play 3 notes, I then change the crook. Crook. And I think this is, yes, this is an E-flat crook. So this is a bigger crook, and now the horn is in fact physically longer. And because it's longer, we get a different series of notes. So those 3 notes I played, now play. Same series, but a lower pitch. Go back to the F1. So if you are musically inclined, there's a tone difference between those two. And you can get crooked in all sorts of lengths. And that's what they've got here. You can see the body of the horn, and then in that bottom lower left picture, you can see all the different lengths of crooks. So if you were a jobbing horn player in those days, you had to be sort of a mini Pickfords to carry this lot around with you. And you had to have a big case that would take the corpus and all the crooks that go with it. So life wasn't, maybe life was challenging for horn players at that time. And fashions changed. Maybe initially, when we got this redesigned horn, maybe it was played similar to the hooped horn. But then, as I say, fashions changed. Maybe instead of holding it like that, maybe then, let's hold it down here, a bit more comfortable. And then they took the radical step of actually taking the hand, right hand, and putting it inside the bell. The notes I was playing there are notes of what we call the harmonic series. So I can play these 3 notes, then add a 4th one, musicians, perhaps you might recognize that as an arpeggio. 1st, 3rd, 5th, and octave notes. I can't play the notes in between. The laws of physics don't allow me to do it. There's no electronics here, there's no gizmos, there's no apps. I can only do what the laws of physics allow me to do. And the laws of physics allow me to play these notes. Can't play the rest of the notes to make the scale. But what I can do, having made this change, I can actually move my hand slightly in the bell, and that effectively changes the length of the horn, and it allows me to play the rest of the notes in the scale. Maybe it sounds a bit funny. It is, because some notes are open and some notes are stopped. It sounds funny, but that's what we had for 100 years or so. We had horns like this, and they played open notes and they played stop notes. And a lot of composers, well-known composers, wrote for this horn. Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven. Now, I really need a safety net for this one. I'm going to try and play a little bit of one of the Mozart horn concertos on this. There's no guarantees what's going to happen here. If you went to music college now, I think you'd be able to study valved horns, modern horns. You'd also be able to study this. I've never really studied this, so this is a bit nerve-wracking. So this particular concerto by our good friend Mr. Mozart is in E flat. So I need to change the crooks and put this horn into E flat. I've got two ways of doing it on this horn. One way is to put this E flat crook in, and the other way, because we've got this wee widget, which is called a coupler, because it couples the body and the crook. That also gives me a horn in E flat, and I think the horn plays a little bit better with a coupler instead of using the crook. Right, Mozart Horn Concerto number 2. Last movement. I'm just going to play the end of it. I'm going to play it. I've got a couple of lines which are sort of introduction, and then a couple of lines which are pure allegro, the actual hunting theme. So I'll just play the introductory lines first, and play slowly so you can hear open notes and stop notes. Can you hear different tones there? Yeah. That's what people knew the horn sounded like. And they cherished it. We like the horn to have these different note qualities. Let's do that a bit again. Right, I've got to the pure allegro, so we're supposed to go a bit faster. Right, here we go. Apologies to Mr. Mozart. I'm afraid I'm not quite ready for that recording contract yet. If you're a professional horn player today and you go onto the concert platform and you're playing one of these instead of playing one of those, my understanding is you get a higher fee rate because that's more difficult to play than that is. Is that correct, Tim? Yeah? Say again?
Doubling fees.
Double?
Doubling fees sometimes.
Wow, well. So, if you're a music student, you perhaps want to learn to play one of these. To get to that, we had to do a little experiment and work out whether or not the horn would work if you actually made it into a circle, like that. Yes, it does. It works very well. So that gave us the license to play this, the hooped horn, and the hand horn. And then the next thing we get to, oh yes, I forgot this one. All those crooks, I've got more of them here. I haven't sort of taken them out. There's more crooks here. It gives them a bit of a challenge. It takes time to change them. You've got perhaps a nice warm crook and you're putting a cold crook in, and it's causes issues. So early 1800s they said, let's try and put it all together in one instrument. And they invented what they call omnitonic horns. So that one, I believe, is in the Edinburgh Museum, and that's just a generic one. I've never actually seen one of these in the flesh. I've seen them in books. I need to go to Edinburgh to look at that one. I haven't been to it yet. Apparently they were heavy, cumbersome, didn't work particularly well, and people didn't adopt them. So, a bit of a rabbit hole. But moving on to step 5, we're up to step 5 already. The valved horn. And that's what this chappy is. So let's just do that. So this horn's also got crooks and a corpus. Take these out. Just put them over here out of harm's way. So hand horn, valved horn, you perhaps agree that they look basically the same, except this one's got valves. What they've done is to take a hand horn and put a valve lock on it. Sensible, I guess. They're called valves, but I think they really should be called diverters. The valves have a piece of tubing associated with them, so I've got a valve and a valve tube, valve tube, valve tube. So at the moment, I can play the horn. If I take this slide out, I can still play the horn. But if I try to use this valve, I get these silly noises, and the air is now coming out here. So all the valve does is to divert the air down the valve tubing, which in fact changes the length of the horn. It took them some time to work out the design, but eventually they came up with this 3-valve design. And essentially these valve slides are the equivalent to the crooks we had there. So this one changes the pitch of the instrument by a tone. This one reduces it by a semitone. And this one is a tone and a half. And if you've got this arrangement, in fact, you can play a complete scale. indeed, you can play a chromatic scale. So it's all the white notes and all the black notes on the piano. That allows you to play any note in any key. So this was a huge step forwards. And a lot of important composers knew about this horn. I've got Brahms, Elgar, Dvorak, Grieg, Sullivan. Gilbert and Sullivan. Gilbert did the words, Sullivan did the music. Sullivan knew this horn. And I'm going to try and play a little bit of Sullivan. Here we go. When I was at university, we had a Gilbert and Sullivan Society. And for me, one of the highlights of the year was when we had a week of Gilbert and Sullivan. And I spent a whole week in the pit playing as part of the orchestra, playing a Gilbert and Sullivan musical. Wasn't great for my engineering studies, but I enjoyed it. One of the operas we played was The Pirates of Penzance. So I'm going to play the overture. This isn't what the horn gets to play in the orchestra. So I've sort of stolen it and I get to play the tune for once. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a French horn. You've probably never heard one played before or seen one played before because the French horn is now, it's passed into history. We don't play these anymore. They're just too difficult. Particularly if you're playing higher up than I was there. It's a difficult instrument. It's got a narrow bore, it's got a small bell, it's got a small sound. We're getting into the 1900s. Orchestras were getting bigger. The music was getting more demanding. This really wasn't adequate. So, they invented the double horn. This is a double horn. Perhaps it looks complicated, I don't know, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with these. But what you've got here is two horns. And it's a bit like a cake with a slice of cream in the middle. They're sandwiched one on top of the other. You've got a long 12-foot horn, and underneath it, you've got a shorter 9-foot horn. I've got the same three valves that I had on the French horn, and they do the same thing, tone, semitone, tone and a half. But then I've got this fourth valve, and that allows me to swap a 12-foot horn and a 9-foot horn. Compared to the French horn, this has got a bigger bore. It's got a bigger bell, it's got a bigger sound, it's more secure. If you want to go on the concert platform and play something challenging, you don't want to be playing that, you want to be playing one of these. It's a lot better. So this horn was in fact my 21st birthday present. When my folks said, what would you like for your birthday, coming up to be 21, I said, without any hesitation, a double horn, please. I've been playing quite sort of cheap, nasty Italian horns, which weren't very good. And the chance to get a double horn was too good to pass up. So, first day I opened the case, saw this wonderful shiny horn. She was christened Ophelia, and she's still Ophelia today. I played this horn for 40 years or so. Eventually, when I was in my 60s, I took grade 8. A bit late, but better late than never. And then I started looking at other horns. But this horn I played for 40 years. I worked as an engineer, went to various places around the world. Wherever I went, Ophelia came too. And she was a great calling card. I could go to the local music group and say, hello, I played the horn. Can I join you? And and in every case I said, yes, we're desperate for horn players. Please come and join us. So Ophelia's been many places, played many concerts, and I've got lots of memories associated with this horn. There's a show called Cats. It's all about cats, believe it or not. I've not played in it, but I've seen it. I've seen it a couple of times. Lovely show, and it's got a piece of music called Memories, and it's from Cats. This horn has a lot of memories for me, so I thought I'd play Memories on this horn. This is a song for Grisabella, if you know the musical. Music by Andrew Lloyd Webber. She still lives at the back of the cupboard. Perhaps she doesn't get out as much as she should do, but certainly she's a great horn. Particularly if I've got a low horn part to play, this is the one I'd go for. When my mother was alive, she always said, "You should play. You should polish the horn. It looks filthy." And we had many discussions about this. My excuse for not doing it was that the horn metal, although horns are made of metal, they look strong and robust, they're in fact very delicate. If you bump them or fall or drop them or do anything with them, you're going to damage them. And there's people who make a very good living out of repairing horns. But if I just go back to this crook, come on. There we go. I'm sorry, you probably won't be able to see this at the back, but there's a wee patch there, a bit like a repair on a bicycle inner tube. That's because as you play the horn, your hand rests just in that place. And over the years, you've actually worn through the metal. and they've had to patch it. And if you see some other older horns, they've got patches in the bell where the metal's worn through. So that was my excuse for not cleaning the horn. I said, if I clean it, I'm going to rub the metal away and you'll have to buy me a new one. So I didn't clean Ophelia very often. Where are we? Yes. As I said, the French horn is now history. 1932, Sir Thomas Beecham, a name that some of you will know, founded the London Philharmonic Orchestra. Again, some of you might know it. And he insisted that the horn section should play German double horns. So that's like Ophelia. Ophelia's, she was made in Germany by Hans Hoyer. I think they're great horns. But Beecham said, I don't want you playing these French horns. They're unreliable. They've got a small sound. I want a big sound. I want a good modern horn section. And he said, you've all got to play these German horns. And they did. And apparently, well, it must have sounded good, because what the Philharmonic did, other orchestras did, so all the professionals started to adopt the modern German horn. And what the professionals do, the amateurs follow. Eventually, the professionals say, oh, I'd like a new one. I'll sell that to an amateur. So the German horns gradually worked their way down through the amateur ranks. And by 1950, the French horn was effectively dead. I was born in 51. I've never seen a French horn played, with one exception, and that was someone who played one once at a special horn day for horn players. I saw someone actually playing that one, playing a French horn once. I've never seen anyone playing a French horn on the concert platform, apart from that one occasion. It's a dodo. And today, the German double horn is the instrument of choice for most horn players. Perhaps wonder how a double horn works. Imagine if we could take one of those horns and unwrap it and put it on the table. What would it look like? It would look like this. We've got the mouthpiece here. That's where you blow. And we've got the bell or the flare down here, and that's where the sound comes out. And in between, you've got a valve here. You've got the 3 valves there and there for playing, the valve slides. And then you've got this 4th valve, and they call it the change valve. And that allows you to swap from playing on this side of the horn to playing on that side of the horn. That side of the horn's got a tube length of about 12 feet. That side of the horn's got a tube length of about 9 feet. And traditionally, you use the long horn for playing low notes and the short horn for playing high notes. But in fact, modern horns are very good now. You can almost play anything on either side, and it's really up to your choice how you use it. But you've got this 4th valve, the change valve, that allows you to change from one horn to the other horn. And that's what I was doing when I played that last piece. Hopefully you didn't notice, but some of it I was on the F horn, some of it I was on the B flat horn. So the thumb was working. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah, good, okay. Right, today there's lots of different horns to choose from. If you look at the British Horn Society website, there is something called the British Horn Society. They list 16 builders. People, it seems curious to me, they talk about building a horn. They don't talk about making one, they say, we're going to build the horn. If you look at a horn, there's lots of different bits of pipe. And what you need to do is to put them together and join them, and you built the horn. And that's the terminology. People talk about building a horn. So there's lots there, lots to choose from. But in the UK at the moment, particularly on the professional side, there's 4 makers that dominate. Alexander from Germany, Paxman from London, Con from America, and Yamaha from Japan. And they've all been making horns for quite a long time, so they should be good. They should know what they're doing. And I think they're doing. They make good horns all the time. So where are we today? I've got 4 professional double horns there. And just to say a few words about each one, starting top left, horn by Alexander in Germany, and it's the Alexander 103. That horn has the reputation, I'm sure it's been well earned, the reputation of being the best horn in the world. So, quite a tag to live up to. They've been making that horn for 100 years or so, and it's patented. I've never had one. I've played a few notes. Yeah, lovely horns. I've never found one at the right price that I thought I could afford, so I've never actually had one. But Alexander 103, many professionals play them, many amateurs play them. Then in London we've got the Paxman, that's Paxman 20, it's one of their flagship horns. I'm sure if we had someone from Paxman here today, they'd say, Paxman 20 is just as good as the Alex 103. And I've seen professionals sitting side by side, Alexander 103, Paxman 20, and they both work superbly. Great horns. If you live in America and you want a job in one of the top orchestras, and perhaps particularly if you want a job in one of the Hollywood film orchestras, you probably want to be playing this horn. It's the Con 8D. It's the horn that they say gives the Hollywood sound. So when you look at the Western picture and you get the big horn theme, it's being probably played on the Con 8D. And then that one, Japan. When I passed my grade 8, I thought I'd maybe look at some other horns. I've been playing at Ophelia for 40 years. And I said to my teacher, what would you recommend? She said, you won't go wrong with a Yamaha. So I got one of these horns, Yamaha 668. I'd had a friend who played one, it seemed very good. I got one, I was very pleased with it. But it didn't stand the test of time, and I went on to other things. But double horns like that, maybe 90% of professional horn players, most amateur players, they're playing a horn like that. They probably, to you, maybe all look the same, and essentially they are. We've got a universal design. A couple of things before we leave this slide. I guess you're all thinking, what do these things cost? I bet they're not cheap. Well, it depends on your viewpoint. Look at these two at the top here. If you had £10,000, you went down to London and said, I'd like an Alex or a Paxman, you're not going to come out with much change. £10,000 would get you one of these beauties. Con's cheaper, Yamaha maybe half the price, which is why I went. It's a lot of money, £10,000. But I'm told, and perhaps Anne will back me up here, if you're a professional violin player, and if you've got £10,000 to buy an instrument with, you're looking at the bottom end of the market. So horns, £10,000 gets you a top-class instrument. Violin, £10,000, professional instruments, you're getting something down at the bottom of the market. So if your kids have got the choice, get them to play the horn rather than violin. It's cheaper. Well, I started off with one of these Yamahas, and it was great. But then I thought, there's other sorts of horns. A lot of horn players say, I don't really do a lot of playing on the F horn, this long 12-foot horn. I do all my playing on the short B-flat horn, the 9-foot horn. And you can get single horns, single B-flat horns, and that's what that is. It's cheaper, it's lighter, it's easier to play. You haven't got to swap from one side to the other. Some people prefer them. If that's easier to play, because it's a shorter horn, then that's even easier again. That's what horn players call a sports model. It's a B-flat, 9 feet horn, and a 6-foot F alto horn. Ooh. I had one, I thought it was great, really, really easy to play. But then I started getting comments. You sound awfully like a trumpet. So I thought that needed to go. And then sort of halfway house, that's a compensating horn. It's a B-flat horn, and instead of having a full F side, you've got the little bit of extra slides that you need to make it the difference. Maybe that's a bit too complicated for this time of the morning. But then the last one, if you're really feeling flush, you can have a triple horn. 12-foot F horn, 9-foot B-flat horn, 6-foot F alto horn. Never played one, I've seen them, sat next to people playing them, they're great. You're also £15,000. It pays your money, it takes your choice. So I've taken my choice, and this is my current horn. Ophelia was great. I really enjoyed playing her, a steel player. I'm never going to sell her. But eventually, I found this horn, and it's by Engelbert Schmidt, and it's German. It's quite modern, really, for me. I'm used to playing old horns. This horn here, I don't think I said, but this horn is 100 years old. It's built in 1920. So getting a horn in 2009 is new. It's almost fresh out of the box, this one is. Some people like these horns, some people don't. Some people say they're too light and you can't get a big enough sound on them. It's not really an issue for me. I'm just playing in small local orchestras. It's got some nice design features. The valves have some nice elements to them. The slide at the back here, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a two-part slide, so I can actually put the horn into different keys, which is nice. And also, come on, let me have it. I can screw the bell on and off. And I can put a different bell on. This horn is unusual in that the one body accepts different sizes of bell. So that's a medium, and that's a large. So you've got your choice. Perhaps if I played them today, you wouldn't hear a lot of difference between them, but yes, I think there is a difference, and it's worth having. Why did I get this horn cheap? It had a bit of an accident. It was kept in a case, and the case had some glue, and the glue created an acidic atmosphere inside the case. Originally, when this horn was new, it was all shiny, bright and shiny, like the bell is. The whole thing was bright and shiny. It must have looked wonderful. But it was kept in this case with this funny glue, and that caused all the lacquer, which is what makes it shiny, it fell off. So what started as a lacquered horn became an unlacquered horn. And the professional who had it said, I don't want it anymore. I'll sell it, and I'll sell it cheap. And I was very pleased to buy it. Why I like it is it's light, it's easy to play. Playing the horn's difficult enough, you don't want to make it more difficult. I think this is just a cracker, if I can use that term. Right, so we'll see what this horn hasn't got a name. You could send me suggestions for naming the horn if you want to. I said that engineering took me to various places around the world, and one place we went was New Zealand. It was great. We spent quite a bit of time there. And when I was there, I got involved in a couple of big shows. One of them was Les Miserables. Quite a big, you know, on this. We did a three-week run of Les Mis, all lights and action. It was great. And it was wonderful to sit there in the pit and play your part and hear this wonderful musical playing on the stage just above your head. It's great. So, I've got a liking for a lot of the Les Mis music, and I'm going to play one of the theme tunes now. It's I Dreamed a Dream. Perhaps some of you know it. It's a great show. I was pleased to be part of it. Where do we go next? We're starting to run out of time here. Okay. Double horn, the variations. I think we've covered the horns that 99% of the horn players play. There's one left. And that's this one, a Vienna horn. The rest of the world decided to play big double German horns. Vienna, which is next to Germany, said, "Oh, no, thank you very much. We don't want to play one of your horns. We've got our horn and we want to keep playing it." And that's the Vienna horn. If you perhaps see the New Year's Day concert on the TV at New Year's Day. It's a concert from the Vienna Philharmonic, and the horn players are playing this horn, and it's a Vienna horn. It's a single horn in F, very similar to the F horn. It's crooked. It's got a crook. It's generally played in F. It's got a small bell compared to the the bell here. It's small. It's got what they call Ullmann valves, which are a bit quirky. I don't know if you can see them, but it's a double piston system, and it's operated by a push rod. So instead of pushing the valve down, in fact, you're pushing the valve up. The bore and the bell combined to give a sound like the natural horn, but the valves make it easier to play. These horns are played in Vienna, Austria, and by enthusiasts in other places, including Scotland. And we've got 2 Vienna horn players sitting at the front here. So yes, we enjoy playing these horns, a bit quirky, but just to finish, I'm going to play a wee bit from this. The other big show I was involved with in New Zealand was The Sound of Music. When I heard they was doing The Sound of Music, I thought, really? Is anyone going to come? But we did it. We had full houses. It was great. I was really impressed by that show. So, to finish, Sound of Music. I climb every mountain. Here we go. Into Switzerland. I mentioned the prices of the horns, and I guess, yes, they've got to be a barrier for people learning the horn. You can't go to mum and dad and say, oh, I want to play the horn, give me £10,000. Cheaper horns aren't available. But one thing they say about the horn is it's an endangered instrument. Not enough people are learning to play it. There's just not enough horn players to go around. If you say, I play the horn, everyone says, yes, come and play. You're welcome. So maybe it's the future, the sub £1,000 horn. So that's Coppergate horn, made in York, Coppergate. And then we've got this chap from our friends in Australia, a plastic horn. I've never seen one, never played one. Yeah, people seem to like them. I'd quite like to get one day. There's other versions available. But maybe that's the future, just cheaper horns. Get more people playing, and then they can progress to more expensive instruments if they want to. That's it, folks. If I can just say, that amongst the horn players, that cartoon is famous. If you sort of, people know what you're talking about. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much, Trevor. This time, last month, Trevor came up to me and said, can we arrange a car parking space, because I need somewhere to park my Pifford's truck, because we're putting in parking instruments. We went to the secretary and said, can we have a car parking space today? Oh dear. we're going to have the builders in a big way. So, did you get parked?
No. I've parked and then reparked. I've got to go and get the car now.
But, questions for Trevor?
Trevor, thanks so much. I've got so
Pleasure.
many questions, but you've answered most of them.
Okay.
Very interesting. I'm a flute player, and flute players are very hung up on the metal that their flutes are made from. So I think £10,000 hardly cuts it. It's okay, mine was more than that. But £10,000 for a professional flute is just a starting point, because high quality silver and of course gold and indeed platinum are the instruments of choice for top professional players. You just talked about metal and a bit of lacquer. What is the metal? Is it critical to the sound?
There's two basic metals. One's yellow brass, and I'm sure that's what this is. It's got a yellowy hue. And the other one is gold brass, which is what this one is. And I think maybe, I'm not quite sure, I think that's also gold brass. Yellow brass has got 70% copper, 30% zinc. Gold brass, 85% copper, 15% zinc. Some people prefer to have a yellow brass, some people prefer to have a gold brass. And typically the gold brass instruments are slightly more expensive. To be honest, if I hear a horn, I can't hear any difference. But some people say yes, they do give you a sound that's better. And if you're a professional, you want to get the best sound you can, and perhaps you're willing to pay the extra money for the gold brass. And also the gold brass is more tarnish resistant. Don't know. Pays your money, you take your choice.
Thanks, can I ask one more?
Yeah.
Well, it is a comment, which is, I noticed in the performing Perth, where I was expecting to see French horn classes, it said horn and F, and I had to look and find out if horn and F was the same thing, and now you've answered for me.
Yeah.
And I take it we dropped calling them German horns in the 30s or the 40s. You know, if you're saying that in 1932 Beecham
Yes.
found that it was to be a
Yeah.
German horn, but we don't call them German horns.
No.
I wonder if the timing of that might be.
The lords and ladies of the horn world say, stop talking about the French horn, just say you play the horn. I hope that's but also to go back to that question about horn in F, if you get a piece of horn music on your stand in the orchestra or wherever, at the top it says horn in. It might say F, it might say something else. It might say E, E flat, D, C, G, A, all sorts of things, B flat. Because we've got this long history, we had 100 years of playing these horns. We had 100 years of playing these horns. And people were writing music for these horns in different keys. We still get that music on our stand today, and we play them on modern horns. So what we do is a little trick called transposition, and that means that you look at the note, and you say, what would that note be if I was playing it on a different horn? And you make that mental jump. You look at the note, but you don't play that note, you play a different note. So you transpose it. So it comes out sounding correct. Every time I try and describe this to my wife, she says, I can't believe you do that. You look at that note, but you don't play that, you play a different note. But it's what you do. You don't have all this hardware now, so it all happens mentally. You look at the note, but play a different note.
First of all, just like thank you for a very
Pleasure.
interesting talk. For me, I'm a trumpet player and
Ah.
a school player.
Okay.
So Chris here is an horn player.
Wonderful.
So we've had three players together, so it's great. Now, coming down to a wee technical point here, because I'm very interested in that French horn there. very simple piece of kit, and it was labelled as unreliable. Now, that flicks back to the trumpet playing, because a trumpet, when we play high notes, one of the great qualities of a very good trumpet is it slots well into high notes. Because if you play a long note in a trumpet, everybody hears it, yeah? Now, was the unreliability of the French horn to do with not slotting into notes reliably?
Maybe. I think maybe the early piston valves weren't terribly reliable, and perhaps a bit leaky, and so you didn't get a good sound for the instrument. I think basically the problem was you're playing a very long tube, 12 feet, as opposed to your trumpet, which is 4.5 feet. And you're trying to control this 12-foot air column. And sometimes you get it wrong. If you're going to play the horn, you've got to accept you're going to get it wrong unless you're really at the top level. As an amateur, you're always going to get it slightly wrong. You do your best, you try not to get it wrong, but yeah, you will. And if you don't accept that, you're not going to go and stand on the platform.
Right, yeah, well that explains it to me. So it's a very long tube compared to the trumpet, and therefore all those harmonics are quite close together. And easy to hit the long harmonic, yeah. And
perhaps you remember I mentioned that sports model, the B flat and then the F alto. That was really nice because everything was so easy. It was so easy to find the notes. They were very well slotted.
Just one other, well, I suppose it's a bit like a follow-up the comment there. The holes appearing in the metal. Yeah, well, I've played vintage instruments and they've all had a past, but quite often I find that one of the problems is people's acid in their hands.
Yeah.
So they're not washing the instrument afterwards, they're not taking that extra time. Usually time is the problem, isn't it? But I've played instruments which are lacquered, which are knackered, and instruments which are unlacquered, which have lasted. And I think it really just comes down to just getting the acid off the metal.
If I play Ophelia, or when I did play her a lot, I used to end up with green hands. I had that part of my hand was green because that's where I held it, and that part of the hand was green because that was in the bell. So how do you tell a horn player it's whether or not he's got green hands?
Any more musicians? Rather thin in numbers today. From a musician.
Well done. It was just asked, you said that Alexander was the patent. Do you know what the patent is? It was interesting.
For the 103?
Yeah.
I suspect it's that fourth change valve.
It's long run out.
Has it run out?
It's been well copied since.
Two horn players here. Tim's got a 103.
Yeah, I've come off friends. I worked for a very large musical instrument manufacturer for 30 years, so some experience. The patent's not been copied by other makers since the 1950s.
Okay.
So it was originally patented in 1898 when it was the shape of that fourth valve.
Yeah.
It's been long copied since.
But if you see the 103, two characteristics. One, that fourth change valve, it's very large. A lot of the change valves are double story, so it's quite a small diameter. But the 103 valve, it's a single story valve, so it's quite large. That's one of the characteristics. And also compared to the other valves, it's upside down. So you've got all the workings on the top. Whereas the other valves, the workings underneath. Does that make sense? That's fine.
Just have a look at
This isn't a question so much as a story. There was a Royal Air Force German band which was around from behind by a petrol tanker in 1980. It incinerated most of the band and all of the instruments. There were a few survivors.
parents kept it, but it was of huge value apparently. I didn't realise that there were such differences in the instruments individually.
Yes, if you look at the websites, there's lots of horns, lots of prices. Some big prices, some quite reasonable. Yeah.
Well, Trevor, you know, I know most of the time, but all the time, people like yourself who are members of the industry and so talented and come along and entertain us in the way you did this morning. So compliments to you and your ability to play this instrument and the way you explained it to us all. I think the next time that I'll go to see a concert with an orchestra, we try and engage conversation with the horn player and pretend I actually know something about it. But again, thank you very much for that. I am aware of your ability to play this instrument. All of it is very aligned, all of it is very skilled. And thank you again for coming along and doing this talk this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
So all that remains to say is, again, I say to you home, remember the AGL on the